Welcome, dear friend, and thank you for choosing to spend a quiet moment here with us. There is a gentleness to be found in stories you see, a particular sort of peace that settles over the mind when it is invited to wander through soft and wondrous places. One hopes that in the telling of this tale, which is itself a quiet and peaceful thing, you will find a comfortable space to rest your thoughts, to let the edges of your day soften and fade, and perhaps to find that gentle, easy path into a sound and restorative sleep. And so, as we prepare to begin our journey into the deep and tranquil quiet, allow the world outside this moment to fall away, like autumn leaves drifting softly to the ground. Find a comfortable position. Let your breathing slow to a gentle, easy rhythm, and simply allow the story to unfold around you. If you find comfort in the peace we share here, we would be so grateful if you would like this story and subscribe to our little corner of the world so that we may share many more quiet journeys together. Now, close your eyes and let us begin. Chapter 1. The Gentle Descent. It is a fine and gentle thing, you know, to arrive at a place that has been waiting for you. Oren felt it not as a grand proclamation, but as a simple, quiet truth, like the feeling of a well-loved coat settling onto his shoulders. The doorway to the Lucent Sanctuaries was not imposing at all. It was a simple, rounded opening, set into the side of a low, ancient hill, as unassuming as a badger's set. The grasses around it were soft and green, and the air, even here at the threshold, carried a different quality, a scent of cool, clean earth, and something else, something faintly sweet and mineral, like the smell of a sun-baked stone just after a brief summer shower. The world he was leaving behind seemed to fall away with each quiet step he took toward that gentle, open darkness. From the quiet within, a figure emerged, moving with a slowness that seemed to be a part of the hill itself. This was Maela, the caretaker, and her smile was as simple and welcoming as the doorway she guarded. She offered no grand words of greeting, for none were needed. Instead, she held out a small, earthenware cup, its surface smooth and cool to the touch. The steam that rose from it was fragrant, with the promises of peace, a delicate scent of chamomile, and a hint of something earthy and grounding, which Oren would later come to know as the tea of sun-warmed granite. He accepted it with a grateful nod, the warmth of the cup seeping into his palms, a small, kind anchor in this new and tranquil world. The tea was a comfort, each sip a small, warm blessing that seemed to smooth the frayed edges of his journey. It tasted of patience, of things that grow slowly and quietly in good soil. As he drank, Maela simply waited, her presence a calm and reassuring stillness. When the cup was empty, she took it back with that same warm, silent smile and gestured with one gentle hand toward the opening. There was no hurry, no expectation, only a quiet invitation. Oren felt a sense of profound trust settle over him, a feeling that this was a place where one could be truly, simply at ease. He took a slow, deep breath, the clean air filling his lungs, and stepped across the threshold, leaving the familiar light of the afternoon sun behind. The descent was not down a stark, sharp staircase, but along a path that spiraled gently into the earth. The floor beneath his soft-soled shoes was not rough-hewn rock, but stone that had been worn smooth by the passage of countless quiet feet over untold years, and it felt surprisingly, wonderfully warm. The initial darkness was soft and enveloping, not at all frightening, but rather like being wrapped in a thick, dark blanket. There were no echoes here. The air itself seemed to absorb sound, muffling the soft scuff of his own footsteps until they were little more than whispers against the silence. He trailed a hand along the wall, its texture as smooth and yielding as soapstone, and felt that same gentle, comforting warmth radiating from its depths. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, a new light began to assert itself against the quiet dark. It was not the harsh pinpoint of a torch, but a faint, pearlescent glow that seemed to emanate from the very air ahead. With each turn of the spiraling path, the luminescence grew a little stronger, a soft, milky whiteness that promised a gentle welcome. It was a light that did not cast sharp shadows, but seemed to dissolve them, to smooth and soften every surface it touched. The quality of the air changed, too, growing even more still and carrying with it the first hint of a low, resonant hum, a sound felt more in the bones than heard with the ears. This hum was the heartbeat of the sanctuaries, a deep and steady rhythm that seemed to rise from the very core of the earth. It was a sound of profound and ancient peace, a vibration that spoke of immense, slow-turning cycles and deep, untroubled stillness. Orin felt it in the soles of his feet, a gentle thrumming that traveled up through his body, seeming to seek out and soothe any lingering tension. He paused on the path, closing his eyes for a moment, and simply listened with his whole being to that deep, foundational sound. It was the sound of a place that was truly, deeply at rest. As the path leveled out, the soft light blossomed around him, revealing the first of the caverns. The walls themselves were the source of the glow, a porous, milky white stone that seemed to breathe out light in a slow, steady pulse. Orin watched, mesmerized, as waves of gentle luminescence washed over the smooth surfaces of the grotto, a silent, rhythmic tide of light. He felt the last vestiges of the world above, the hurry and the worry and the endless noise, fall away from him completely. It was not a violent shedding, but a gentle release, as if he had been carrying a great, unseen weight upon his shoulders for so long that he had forgotten it was there, until at last it was gone. And here, in the deep, warm quiet, there was nothing to do but be. Maëlle had stopped a little way ahead, standing by the entrance to a small, secluded grotto that was clearly meant for him. She gestured toward it, a simple, open-handed movement that said, "This is for you, rest." Orin gave a small, grateful bow of his head and walked into the gentle, pulsing light of his new temporary home. The air was warm, the silence was deep, and the slow, rhythmic hum of the stone was a lullaby sung by the earth itself. He had arrived. Nazha. Chapter 2. The First Glimmer. The grotto was a perfect little haven of quietude, a gentle curve of softly glowing rock that formed a space both open and embracing. The light here, emanating directly from the walls, was as soft as swan's down, casting no shadows and bathing everything in a steady, pearlescent glow. Orin ran his palm over the wall's surface. It was as smooth as a river-washed pebble and radiated a comforting, constant warmth, like a hearthstone that has held the memory of a fire. He sat down on a low, wide ledge of the same warm stone, feeling the gentle heat seep through his simple clothes, a deeply soothing sensation that seemed to travel right to his bones. He had never before encountered stone that was so alive, so giving. Nay, he spent what felt like a long, languid, timeless while simply observing. His cartographer's eyes, so used to tracing the lines of hills and streams, now traced the faint, silvery veins that marbled the milky whiteness of the lumenstone. They were not cracks or fissures, but intricate, shimmering threads that seemed to catch the stone's inner light, pulsing with a slightly brighter intensity in time with the cavern's slow, rhythmic hum. Following one of these silver lines with his gaze was a meditation in itself, a slow journey across a landscape of light, his thoughts becoming as quiet and meandering as the path he followed. The world became this single, simple, beautiful detail, the slow, soft pulse of light along a silver vein. The deep, resonant hum of the sanctuary was more present here, a constant, gentle companion. It was a sound that filled the space without being loud, a pervasive vibration that Oren could feel in his chest when he took a slow, deep breath. He found his own breathing beginning to unconsciously slow and deepen, falling into harmony with that steady, geologic rhythm. It was the most peaceful sound he had ever known, the antithesis of all the sharp, sudden noises of the world above. It was the sound of stability, of immense and quiet strength, of a peace so profound it had settled into the very rock of the earth. Presently, Maella returned, moving with her characteristic silent grace. She carried a tray carved from a single dark, smooth piece of stone, upon which sat a simple meal, a bowl of steaming, savory stew full of soft root vegetables, a thick slice of dark, yielding bread that smelled faintly of honey, and a small dish of pale, stewed fruits. She set it down beside him without a word, her movements unhurried and deliberate. Oren met her gaze and offered a smile of thanks, which she returned with a gentle warmth that needed no language to be understood. The companionship was as nourishing as the food, a shared, comfortable silence that asked for nothing and offered everything. As he ate the simple, wholesome food, a new sensory detail revealed itself. From a small, still pool of water in a basin-like depression at the far side of the grotto, a faint, silvery mist was rising. It drifted in slow, languid curls, catching the light and swirling like smoke in a sunbeam. This, he realized, must be the scented vapors Maella had gently gestured towards. He breathed in deeply, and a delicate, profoundly soothing fragrance filled his senses. It was a scent like lavender mixed with chamomile, with an underlying clean, earthy note, the very essence of tranquility made tangible. The aroma seemed to have a weight to it, a calming presence that settled his mind as surely as the warm stone settled his body. Each breath felt fuller, easier, as if the air itself were carrying a gentle balm. He watched the vapors rise and dissipate into the glowing air of the grotto, a slow, silent, and endless dance. He felt a profound sense of ease wash over him, a gentle letting go of thoughts, plans, and memories. There was only the present moment, the taste of the warm stew, the feeling of the smooth stone beneath him, the sight of the pulsing light, the sound of the deep hum, and the scent of the calming mist. After he had finished his meal, Maella returned to collect the tray. She paused for a moment, her gaze resting on the pool of scented vapors, and then she looked at Orin. She brought a hand to her own chest and took a slow, deliberate breath, a simple, silent instruction. Orin understood. He mirrored her action, turning his full attention to his breathing, drawing the soft lavender-scented air deep into his lungs and releasing it in a long, slow sigh. He felt a release of tension in his shoulders he hadn't even known he was holding. It was a simple lesson, offered without a single word. The sanctuary's peace was not just to be observed, but to be breathed in, to be invited into oneself. When Maella had gone, leaving him once more to the quiet solitude of his grotto, Orin lay back on the wide, warm ledge. He pillowed his head on his arms and gazed up at the smooth, glowing ceiling. The light pulsed, a slow and steady beat. The hum vibrated gently through the stone beneath him. The air was fragrant with calm. He felt himself becoming part of the quiet rhythm of the place, a small, still point in a universe of gentle, pulsing light. For the first time in a very long time, his mind was truly, wonderfully empty of all but a simple, peaceful awareness. Chapter 3. Immersion in Light. A sense of timelessness had settled over Orin, soft and complete. He did not know if a day had passed or several, and found that he did not care. Time here was measured not in the turning of the sun, but in the slow rhythmic pulse of the lumen stone. When he felt ready, he rose from his grotto and chose a path at random, trusting the gentle glow to guide him. He soon came upon a stream, but it was unlike any he had ever mapped. It made no sound at all, its surface a perfect, unbroken sheet of shimmering quiet. This was the resonance water, and it flowed with a placid grace, its current visible only in the slow, silent drift of captured light upon its surface. He knelt at the water's edge, the stone beneath his knees warm and smooth. The light from the cavern walls pooled on the water's surface, creating a liquid mirror of the gentle, pulsing glow above. Hesitantly at first, he dipped his fingers into the stream. The water was cool, but not cold, and the sensation was extraordinary. It did not feel wet in the way of normal water. Instead, a feeling of profound lightness spread from his fingertips up through his hand and arm. It was a gentle, fizzing quietude, a sensation that seemed to dissolve physical weight and mental clutter in equal measure. He watched, fascinated, as a faint, silvery shimmer was left on his skin, which faded slowly like breath on a cool pane of glass. He drew his hand back, marveling at the feeling of effortless lightness that remained. It felt as if his arm could float on the air, utterly free of tension. Emboldened, he cupped both hands and lifted the silent water, letting it run over his arms. The feeling intensified, a wave of serene weightlessness that spread through his shoulders and chest, rinsing away the last deep-held remnants of old burdens. He felt a smile touch his lips, a simple, unbidden expression of pure, quiet delight. This was a place of the gentlest magic, a magic that did not command or transform, simply soothed and lighten. Following the soundless stream, he ventured deeper into the sanctuaries. The passages opened into a cavern far vaster than his own small grotto, a place of breathtaking, silent grandeur. Great, luminous pillars of lumen stone rose from the floor, their tops lost in a soft, high darkness. Each pillar seemed to have its own unique character, its own subtle variation in the universal hum, and the light here was a symphony of soft whites. Some pillars glowed with a pure, milky luminescence, while others pulsed with a warmer, creamy ivory, and still others held the faintest, blush-pink hue of a dawn sky. The air was a tapestry woven from these gentle, shifting shades. In the center of this grand cavern was a wide, shallow basin, filled with fine, pale sand, as cool and soft as sifted flour. Orin felt an irresistible pull to simply lie down. He removed his soft shoes and stepped onto the sand, the fine grains yielding gently under his weight, a cool and pleasant contrast to the warmth of the ever-present stone. He lay down on his back, sinking slightly into the comforting embrace of the sand bed, and gazed up at the slow, silent ballet of light. The great pillars pulsed in a gentle, asynchronous rhythm, their lights overlapping and blending on the distant ceiling, creating slow-moving patterns of ethereal beauty. It was like watching clouds drift across a luminous subterranean sky. The deep, resonant hum of the earth was stronger here, a tangible presence that resonated through the sand and up into his body. He could feel the gentle, rhythmic vibration in his back, his legs, his skull, a deeply calming, full-body lullaby. He closed his eyes, and the experience became purely one of feeling. The cool, soft sand beneath him, the gentle warmth of the air on his skin, and the pervasive, soothing thrum of the sanctuary's heart. His thoughts, which had already grown so quiet, now ceased altogether, replaced by a simple, profound state of being. He was not Orin the cartographer. He was just a quiet consciousness, breathing in harmony with the ancient, sleeping stone. He lay there for a long, blissful stretch of time, adrift on an ocean of tranquility. The worries and cares of his former life felt like memories from a different person, a story read long ago. Here in the heart of the light, such things had no substance. There was only the gentle pulse, the deep hum, the soft air. He felt a sense of dissolving, of his own edges becoming as soft and indistinct as the light that filled the cavern. It was a wonderful feeling, not of loss, but of connection, of becoming a small, harmonious part of this immense and peaceful whole. When he finally chose to rise, he felt utterly renewed, as if he had just woken from the most restful sleep of his life. His body felt light and free, his mind clear and placid as the surface of the resonance water. He brushed the cool sand from his clothes, the simple physical act feeling mindful and grounding. He gave a quiet, grateful nod to the great glowing pillars, a silent thank you for the peace they had shared with him. As he turned to follow the silent stream back the way he had come, he knew this place had changed him in some subtle, fundamental way. He was learning the language of stillness, and it was the most beautiful language he had ever known. Chapter 4. The Heart of the Hum. Upon Orin's return to his small grotto, he He found Maella waiting for him, her expression as serene as ever. She held a single unopened flower bud in her palm, its petals a pale silvery white. With a simple, gentle gesture, she beckoned him to follow. There was a sense of quiet purpose in her movements that told him she was leading him somewhere special, somewhere deeper still. They walked in their usual comfortable silence, their soft footsteps the only addition to the ever-present foundational hum of the stone. She led him away from the path of the silent stream, down a passage he had not noticed before, one that sloped gently, steadily downward into the warmer, deeper parts of the earth. The hum grew stronger with every step, the vibration becoming a constant, pleasant pressure against the soles of his feet. The light, too, seemed to intensify, the lumen stone walls glowing with a brighter, more golden-hued warmth. The air was thick with the scent of the scented vapors, a rich, calming aroma of lavender and warm earth that was deeply comforting. Maella paused and dipped the flower bud she carried into a small warm pool of resonance water. As she drew it out, the bud began to slowly, gracefully unfurl, its petals opening to reveal a softly glowing stamen, a tiny point of light, as if it had drunk the light from the water itself. Maella offered the opened, glowing flower to Orin. He took it gently, its petals feeling impossibly soft, like solidified mist. It radiated a faint warmth into his palm, and its tiny light pulsed in perfect time with the great, deep hum that surrounded them. She then gestured for him to continue, and he now led the way, the little flower acting as a soft, gentle lantern, its light a small echo of the greater light that awaited them. The path ended at a perfectly circular archway, beyond which lay a space that took Orin's breath away, with its simple, profound majesty. They had arrived at the heart of the sanctuaries. The chamber was a perfect sphere, vast and symmetrical, as if carved by a divine hand. But its creator was nature, and its tool was time. In the very center of this immense cavern, suspended in the air by what looked like thick solidified rays of light, was an enormous geode. It was cracked open like a giant seed pod, and the inside, a breathtaking hollow of crystalline structures, was the source of all the light and all the sound. The crystals glowed with a pure, brilliant, yet gentle white light, a light so clean and soft it felt nourishing to the eyes. And from this core, the hum emanated in visible, tangible waves of warmth and peace. The rhythmic pulse here was at its most profound. It was no longer just a sound or a vibration, but a presence that filled the entire space, washing over them again and again in slow, powerful, yet infinitely gentle waves. Orin felt it pass through him, a wave of warmth and utter tranquility that seemed to loosen every muscle and quiet every last stray thought. He and Maella stood near the entrance, simply observing, their breathing slowing and deepening to match the deep, gentle rhythm of the great stone heart. There were no words to be spoken here, for any sound would have felt like a discordant note in a perfect symphony of silence. They sat down on the warm, smooth floor, the glowing flower still resting in Orin's open palm, its small light a reflection of the great light before them. He watched, mesmerized, as the waves of energy flowed from the geode, so slowly that you could almost track their progress across the vast spherical room. the light would swell, a soft, silent crescendo, and the hum would deepen, and a wave of warmth would wash over them. Then the light would soften, the hum would recede to its gentle bass line, and a moment of perfect, profound stillness would settle before the cycle began anew. It was the breathing of the earth, slow and deep and peaceful. Oren found his mind had become as still and clear as a perfect crystal. It was not empty, but rather full of the sensations of the chamber. His awareness was entirely present, absorbed in the simple, profound experience of the pulsing light, the deep resonance, and the pervasive warmth. He felt a sense of connection to Mael, sitting peacefully beside him, and to the great glowing heart of the sanctuary itself. They were all part of this cycle, all breathing in unison with the ancient stone. It was a feeling of belonging that ran deeper than any he had ever known, a quiet cellular understanding that all things were connected in a vast, slow, and gentle dance. He did not know how long they sat there watching the heart of the sanctuaries beat. Time had dissolved completely, leaving only the endless, gentle rhythm of the now. When Mael finally placed a gentle hand on his arm, it was not to break the spell, but to signal that it was time to let this peace settle deep within him. He looked at the glowing flower in his hand, its light as steady and calm as his own heart now felt. He had been shown the source, the very font of the quietude he had sought, and in seeing it, he had found that same quietude residing, peaceful and glowing, within himself. Chapter 5. A Quiet Ascent. The journey back from the heart of the geode was one of serene reflection. The path upward felt different now, familiar and comforting. The hum of the lumen stone was no longer just an external sound, but an internal rhythm that seemed to beat in time with his own pulse. Oren carried the small, glowing flower in his cupped hands, its soft light a personal lantern guiding his way, its gentle warmth a constant reminder of the profound peace he had found in the deep. Maela walked beside him, her presence as reassuring as the steady glow of the walls around them. His time in the sanctuaries, he knew, was coming to a gentle and natural close. The ascent was effortless, his body feeling light and free of strain. It was as if the weightlessness he'd discovered in the resonance water had become a more permanent part of him. Each step was mindful, a quiet note in the silent symphony of the caverns. He observed the silvery veins in the stone, the soft diffusion of the light, the clean, earthy scent of the air, not as a visitor discovering new things, but as a friend taking leave of a cherished place, committing each detail to a fond and peaceful memory. The stillness felt like a soft blanket, settling gently not just over his thoughts, but into the very fabric of his being. As they neared the surface, a subtle change in the air heralded their approach. A faint coolness, a hint of scents from the world above, damp soil, green leaves, the distant promise of an open sky, began to mingle with the warm, mineral fragrance of caverns. The spiraling path began to brighten with a different kind of light, a soft gray luminescence that filtered in from the entrance. The profound, pervasive hum of the lumen stone began to soften, receding gently like a tide going out, leaving behind a deep and abiding calm. It was not an ending, Oren felt, but a transition. He stepped out of the rounded hillside doorway, and the world greeted him with a gentle kindness. The late afternoon sun was low in the sky. Its light filtered through a thin veil of high, soft clouds, bathing the landscape in a warm, golden glow that felt like a soft, familiar blanket. The air was cool on his cheeks, and he took a deep, slow breath, smelling the rich scent of grass and damp earth. The sound of a distant bird singing its evening song was not jarring, but clear and beautiful, a delicate melody laid over a new foundation of inner silence. The world outside seemed to have been imbued with the peace he had found within. Maëlle stood at the threshold, her face illuminated by the gentle meeting of the cavern's glow and the sun's fading light. She did not offer words of farewell, for their shared time had existed in a space deeper than language. Instead, she reached out and gently took the now faded flower from his hand. In its place, she pressed a small, smooth oval stone into his palm. It was dark and cool to the touch at first, but as he closed his fingers around it, a familiar, gentle warmth began to radiate from its core, and he could feel a faint, rhythmic vibration against his skin, a tiny, perfect echo of the sanctuary's deep and steady hum. He looked from the stone in his hand to Maëlle's serene face and gave her a smile of deep, heartfelt gratitude. "Thank you," he said, and the words felt simple and true, carrying all the weight of his experience. She responded with a slow, gentle nod, a silent acknowledgement that the gift was not from her, but from the sanctuary itself, and that he was now a part of its quiet story. This small stone was not a souvenir, but a key, a tangible connection to the stillness he could now carry with him wherever he went. He turned and began to walk away from the low green hill, feeling not a sense of leaving, but a sense of carrying. The sun was setting, painting the clouds in soft hues of rose and pale lavender. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves in the nearby trees, a sound like a soft exhalation. He paused and looked back, one last time at the simple round doorway, which already seemed to be merging back into the peaceful landscape. He held the warm, humming stone in his hand, a small secret anchor to the luminous quiet he now carried inside him, a peace as deep and as enduring as the ancient living rock. The journey was over, but the tranquility had just begun.